Testing, 1, 2. So I'm testing English, testing English, testing English, 1, 2, 3, testing English. I don't see anything that you're pointing to me. Testing English, 1, 2, 3, testing English, 1, 2, 3, testing English, 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh, testing English, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Parking ticket with noise.
Oh no, testing English, 1, 2, 3, testing English, 1, 2, 3. Testing English, 1, 2, 3.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I could ask members of council to take their seats, on va commencer la réunion dans...
We'll start the meeting in 1 minute.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Council for April 15th. Moments ago, the Supreme Court of Canada issued a ruling on whether a municipal council's recitation of a prayer before a meeting offends the Charter protection of freedom of conscience and religion. As the Supreme Court has determined that reciting a prayer may contravene a municipal government's duty of neutrality on matters of religious belief, and as it will take some time to fully assess this lengthy decision, City Council will not say a prayer this morning and will be reviewing this practice through our City Clerk and Solicitor to ensure that the City of Ottawa conforms with the Supreme Court's ruling. I would ask those who are able to stand for a moment of reflection and remain standing for the singing of the National Anthem. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to invite Councillor Eli El-Shantiri to introduce our special group of singers from his community who will sing our national anthem. Councillor El-Shantiri, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And as you can see, Mr. Mayor, I'm very pleased to introduce some of the finest young students from Venta Preparatory School located in Carp. And as you look at the kids, we have almost every nationality out of those 72 students who are student daytime and boarding as well. And what we have today is a group of singers who I've seen more than once on their Christmas concert or at Diefenbunker and Remembrance Day joining us in the ceremony. So they are here today to sing All Canada for us. So I know some of them nervous, but you met the mayor, nothing to be nervous. He's uncrushed, he can't chase you. So, and I just want you to know, Mr. Mayor, they're the closest physically to the Canadian Tire Centre, where the home of the Sens. And I think mostly they're Sens fan. Are you guys Sens fan? Yes. There you go. I'll turn it to Miss Sarah, who's going to lead us. Sarah?
Canada, we stand on guard.
Well, that was terrific. Thank you very, very much, these young students from CARP, and thank you, Councillor El Shantiri, for suggesting that they open today's meeting with that beautiful rendition with their bells. Goodbye. Let's give them another round of applause. They did a great job. At this time in our meeting's proceedings, I'd like to invite Mitchell Curry-Lowitz to the podium for this meeting's City Builder Award, and also invite Councillor George Derouz, who is Mitchell's City Councillor. J'inviterai aussi son conseiller, George Derouz.
I would also like to invite Mitchell Derouz, who is his councillor. Bienvenue.
George, here he comes. Come on over here, Mitchell. Today we have the opportunity to recognize the outstanding efforts of a young gentleman in our community. Outstanding leadership, inspiring charitable work, and building communities are accomplishments that can take a lifetime to achieve. Assurer un leadership exceptionnel.
Outstanding leadership, inspiring charitable work, and building communities are accomplishments that can take a lifetime to achieve.
As Max Keeping often says, our youth are not the leaders of tomorrow, they're the leaders of today. And in just 17 short years, Mitchell has exemplified these virtues and more. En 17 ans seulement, Mitchell a témoigné de...
And in just 17 short years, Mitchell has exemplified these virtues and more.
Playing competitive soccer and finishing high school, most young adults would have plenty to keep them preoccupied. That's what makes Mitch's work all the more impressive. As head boy, Mitchell leads various fundraising initiatives for organizations like Christie Lake Kids and the Ottawa Food Bank. Mitchell also founded the Community Service Club at Ashbury, which works to organize community service events at the school and in the community. As an active member in his school and community, Mitchell is a very active volunteer in our city. However, this is only the beginning of his story. Beginning with a week-long trip to rural Kenya in 2007, Mitch was instilled with a passion to give back to the communities that welcomed him so warmly. À la suite d'un voyage
Beginning with a week-long trip to rural Kenya in 2007, Mitch was instilled with a passion to give back to the communities that welcomed him so warmly.
Upon his return, Mitch began a successful sticker campaign from his desk in his bedroom, which continued to grow until he founded Project Jenga. I don't know if we pronounced the J or not. Project Jenga. Jenga is the Swahili word meaning to build. Working with the international charity Free the Children, which many of us know about, Project Jenga has raised over $500,000 going towards building a school in the same rural area of Kenya that Mitchell visited as a boy. Project Jenga is the single largest contributor to this $2 million project through corporate events, sponsorship, and donations. The school broke ground in 2014 and is set to open next year. La construction de l'école a débuté.
The school broke ground in 2014 and is set to open next year.
Through Mitch's leadership, Project Jenga recently hosted a highly successful gala dinner to raise funds. The gala hosted celebrities such as Mia Farrow and Marley Matlin and raised $117,000 towards opening that important school in Kenya. Mitch has also been involved with Free the Children for over 10 years and is currently a youth advisor, and they just celebrated the very successful We Day at the Canadian Tire Centre. I think it was just last week, if I'm not mistaken. Thousands of students from across Ottawa participated. Free the Children engages in community service projects in Kenya, India, and China. It's appropriate we're honoring Mitchell today because this is National Volunteer Week, which we celebrate April 12th to 18th, and there's a wonderful display of volunteer organizations next door. And we are very pleased to have Mitch's parents with us here today. And on behalf of City Council and Councillor George Derouz, it's my pleasure to present you with this meeting's City Builder Award for a job well done. Congratulations and best of luck with your next endeavor as you graduate from high school, Mitchell. Félicitations.
Thank you very much. I just want to say a few very brief words this morning. First of all, I'm really honored to receive this award. Thank you very much. It's a little bit ironic to be receiving the City Builder Award because the word Jenga, the name of our project is Project Jenga, and Jenga means to build in Swahili. And ultimately what we wanted to do when we first started this project was build an all-boys secondary school to match the quality of education that the girls were already receiving. But what we didn't know was that we would be building so much more. We would be building relationships and a very giving community and caring community right here in Ottawa primarily. So I want to say a big thank you again for this award. I really, really appreciate it. And we really want to give back both locally and globally, and that's one of the primary missions of Project Jenga. So another big thank you, Mr. Watson and the Councillor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mitchell, and congratulations again. I'd now invite Rabbi Bolka, chair of the Ottawa chapter of the Trillium Gift of Life Network, to please join me for the next presentation. Rabbi Bolka. And the rabbi is here with a number of supporters of Trillium Gift of Life. Helene Campbell, where is Helene Campbell, our wonderful ambassador? Thank you, Helene, for being with us today. And Lynn and Dave Presley, and I'm going to go down that slippery slope. Doug Thompson, are you here for this? Okay, there he is. And lots of people with their green ribbon on, and it's great to have our good friend, the rabbi here. I was saying that I think he's going to have to get a SENS logo up on his cap there. I think we'll get one of those for you, okay?
Oh, good.
All right.
Is that a commitment?
It is,
okay.
It is. Organ and tissue transplant donation saves and enhances thousands of lives here in Ontario and across Canada every year.
Organ and tissue transplant and donation saves and enhances thousands of lives here in Ontario and across Canada every year.
The reality is that there are still lengthy waiting lists for organ and tissue transplant. According to the Canadian Transplant Society, more than 1,600 Canadians are added to organ wait lists every year. Tragically, each year, individuals die while waiting for organ or tissue donation. And while many Canadians support organ and tissue donation, less than 25% have made plans to donate. Organ and tissue donation can make a huge difference to so many people. One donor can save more than 75 people and save up to 8 lives. April is Be a Donor Month.
Avril est le mois Soyez un donneur.
Make people aware that registering to be an organ or tissue donor is easy and it only takes a couple of minutes. And to those who have already registered to be an organ or tissue donor, I encourage you to spread the word in order to help save more lives. The City of Ottawa supports this cause. La Ville d'Ottawa appuie.
The City of Ottawa supports this important cause.
Here at City Hall will be illuminated in green from sunset on April 15th until sunrise on April 16th to help create awareness around Be a Donor Month and organ and tissue donation. Additionally, we have arranged for a Be a Donor flag to be flown at City Hall for the month of April. I'd like to thank Rabbi Bolka and the Trillium Gift of Life Network, as well as many other organizations that promote organ and tissue donation, for all of the outstanding work that they are doing to encourage people to register for organ and tissue donation.
I would like to thank our Rabbi Bolka, the Trillium Gift of Life Network, as well as the many other organizations that promote organ and tissue donation for all of the outstanding work they are doing.
With the official proclamation, which is very proud, Rabbi, to proclaim April 2015 as Be a Donor Month in the City of Ottawa. Again, thank you for your unfailing leadership on this important cause. We're very, very proud of the work that you've done, and you've brought so many great people. There's an information booth out at the main foyer of City Hall. Congratulations and job well done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Your Worship. Firstly, I'm delighted that you're getting into game shape just in time for the playoffs. Thank you for all your support. This is not just now, but over the years. You've been a big champion, and we really appreciate it. This year, I'm pleased to be able to tell you that we actually broke the all-time Ontario record for organ and tissue donation, which is astounding. We cracked the 200 barrier a number of years ago. This year went all the way up to 265, which is quite an achievement. It's thanks to all the champions that are here today that do all that work. In light of the fact that this is the big day before the playoffs, I just want people to have a little bit of a sense of what this all means. A number of months ago, people thought that the Senators didn't have a hope of a playoff life. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, hope sprang, and here they are today for the first game. You take a look at people that are on the waiting list. They also are in a situation where the possibilities of them making the playoffs and being able to live a long life are really dependent on the goodwill of others. We thankfully have a very generous Ontario. You're all pleased to know that Ottawa does a lot better than Toronto in this, like in everything else. We're delighted to take this proclamation, and we'll hang it very proudly. And thank you so much.
Always well said. Yeah, thank you. Classy. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rabbi. Our final presentation's a bittersweet presentation. I'd ask that we call up our Deputy City Manager, Steve Kanalakis. Steve, as many of us know, is leaving for the bright lights of Vaughan. They used to have a slogan. It was the city above Toronto, and then it was the city above the law. Remember that?
It still is.
Steve nous quitte pour se joindre à l'équipe.
Steve is leaving us for the Bright Lights of Vaughan, Ontario, after a great run here at the City of Ottawa.
Steve has been such a great public servant here in Ottawa, and I don't think many people, certainly in the community, I know we around the table and staff know how much he's had on his plate. As Deputy City Manager, he was responsible for community and social services, emergency and protective services, parks, recreation and cultural services, public works, transit services, environmental services, human resources, information technology services, Service Ottawa. What did you do, Kent? Maybe the most challenging of all, he had to deal with my never-ending emails at all hours of the night and phone calls. But the reason many of us call Steve is because he gets the job done. He is one of these professional public servants that cuts through a lot of red tape and really understands the service concept of the City of Ottawa. We're in the service business, quite frankly. That's what we're here for. And he has dedicated a very good portion of his life to the City of Ottawa, Ottawa Police Services, and he was is a great communicator for important issues to staff and to the broader public. Steve était un communicateur incroyable.
Steve is a great communicator to staff and to residents.
The very best down the 417 in Vaughan. He certainly will be sorely missed. So, Steve, thank you very, very much for your many, many years of dedication, professionalism. And if you ever get tired of waiting for a Maple Leafs playoff run in the GTA, we'll welcome you back home to Ottawa anytime. And I now ask Kent Kirkpatrick to come up and say a few words before we have a small presentation. Thanks.
My favorite speech about Steve takes about 30 minutes, and it's more of a diatribe than a speech. But I've already promised Steve that I won't do that here today. I'd like to add a couple of comments. I certainly agree with everything that the mayor said, except about the part about me not doing anything. And but just speaking on behalf of all of the staff, Steve, that over the last 2 decades you've worked with at the city, the region, and then at the City of Ottawa, I'd like to thank you very, very much for your commitment, your contributions to this organization, to the staff within it, and most specifically to the leadership of this organization. It's been outstanding. I've appreciated it very much, as have hundreds and thousands of staff at the City of Ottawa. And the second thing is that we hope that your experience in Vaughan is an excellent adventure and that it exceeds every expectation that you have for it. Thank you very, very much, Steve. Thank you.
I'm going to now present Steve with a small token of appreciation, and then I'm going to ask all members of council to come in, and we'll get a group shot with Steve, because I know all of you work very closely with him for, in many cases, many years, going back even before amalgamation. Steve, this is a small memento, a picture of the Heritage Building of City Hall. C'est une petite photo de
It's a picture of a heritage building here on Elgin.
Honor in your new office, and we'd ask that you say a few words.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor and Kent, for the kind words. I've sat here so many years. I was trying to count how many council meetings I've actually been at over my career, and not as long as Pierre Paget or Doug Thompson, but I might be close. Hundreds and hundreds of meetings, and I've listened to a lot of people come up on their last day of council and speak, and I've always been touched when people speak. And you sit there when you're watching and you wonder what you're going to say when that moment finally comes for you, and you never think that moment's going to come, but it actually one day does come, and here we are today. And when I was thinking about it, two things came to mind when I was thinking about what I was going to say today. And the first one that struck me is that when I think back over a career and working at the city, running a city is a team sport. It's not about individuals. It can't be run well without a strong, visionary, consensus-building mayor. It can't be run well without councillors who have passion for their communities and a wide range of life experience and who believe in good governance. It can't be run well without staff who are engaged, dedicated, committed to the community, and execute council's directions with total professionalism. And finally, it can't be done without an engaged community who hold all of us accountable. That's who we work for. The City of Ottawa has a great team because all these components are in place, and I've been so proud and motivated every day to be part of this team. And there wasn't really one day that I can think of that I didn't get up in the morning and I was excited to come into work. That's the kind of place that the City of Ottawa is. The second theme that came to mind is stewardship and caretaking. And a wise, seasoned elected official, and Mayor wasn't Larry O'Brien, told me a long time ago that the elected officials and the staff are the stewards, caretakers of all our community assets. And I had thought about that for a long time because I truly believe in that principle. Generation after generation, for hundreds of years in this city, of elected officials and staff have had this responsibility to be the caretakers of our city. And this wise elected official told me that the ultimate measure of success is whether this generation of caretakers leaves our community assets in better condition than they found them. And I truly believe that the councils and staff that I've worked with over the last 30 years have achieved that goal. The City of Ottawa, in this generation, is a much better place compared to any previous generation. It has a remarkable future ahead of it, and it currently has the conditions in place and the most amazing caretakers who are the true stewards of achieving that future. And I'm proud to have been part of that generation of caretakers. And on my departure, I know that the people who are here will continue to be on the successful path of building the world-class city that I know we're going to become. And in closing, I'd like to thank a few people. First, I'd like to thank Mayor Watson for creating an amazing work atmosphere for all the staff. It was a long time coming for us, and he's managed to create an atmosphere where innovation and getting the job done and a positive work atmosphere for all the staff here, and for his leadership and allowing all of us to truly see what the potential of this city really is. I believe that's going to be his legacy no matter how many terms he's mayor. I'd also like to thank every councillor for their support. I truly enjoy the relationships with the councillors. You know, among staff, we all talk about councillors and we have fun with it, but they have such a tough job, and I have such a respect and admiration for what they do. And having a relationship with them and each one of them, even the new ones that have come, we've quickly established relationship, has been some of the most rewarding relationships I've had in my life. I'd also like to thank our executive committee, who are up, some of them are here, and our senior management team of the city. We're blessed to have the leadership that we have. They're all experienced world-class leaders who have very demanding and complex jobs and always manage to deliver the results council expect. We have an amazing management team, senior management team here, and I appreciated them every day because this job, no one's job can be done without a great team, and many of them are here today. I also want to pay special tribute to the staff of the city. They are councils and the city's greatest asset. We pay so much attention to infrastructure and facilities and big projects and pipes and all those things, which are really important for any city, but our greatest strength is our people infrastructure. This city could not function without the dedicated staff we have. They've motivated me every day of my career to truly try harder and to be better just for them. And finally, I want to thank Kent Kirkpatrick. I've been with Kent for, I don't know, I guess we're 20 years now. Met Kent in 1995. He was deputy treasurer at the region, and I came in here, and we got along. We hit it off right away, which people might think might be odd, but we did. Kent is my boss, my mentor, my advisor, my coach, and most importantly, my friend. We've become good friends over the years. He has given me the most incredible opportunities. He's entrusted me with bigger and bigger responsibilities over the last 15 years, and I will forever be grateful to him for what he has done for me. And finally, I wish to thank all of you, councillors that are all here today, the staff, all of you. Continued success for this term of council. Our community is counting on you. Thank you very much for doing this today.
Thank you all very much. Merci beaucoup. Roll call, please, Madam Deputy Clerk.
Conseiller Manette.
Present.
Councillor Middick.
Present.
Councillor Harder.
Here.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Present.
Councillor Elshantiri.
Present.
Councillor Caudry.
Present.
Councillor Taylor.
Here.
Councillor Shirelli.
Here.
Councillor Egli.
Here.
Councillor Deans.
Here.
Councillor Tierney.
Present.
Conseiller Fleury.
Ici.
Councillor Nussbaum.
Here.
Councillor McKinney.
Present.
Councillor Leeper.
Present.
Councillor Brockington.
Here.
Councillor Chernyshenko.
Present.
Conseiller Cloutier.
Present.
Conseiller Blais.
Present.
Councillor DeRuse. Councillor Moffat.
Here.
Councillor Kakish.
Present.
Councillor Hubley.
Here.
Mayor Watson.
Ici.
Le quorum est 10, Monsieur le Maire.
Merci.
You have quorum.
On the process verbal for the regular meeting of March 25th, 2015, and I thank our deputy mayors for filling in for me. Carried. Declaration of interest, including those arising originally from prior meetings, déclaration de conflit d'intérêt. Communications as presented, response to inquiries as presented, regrets, absence, no regrets filed to date, aucune absence n'a encore été signalée. Motion to introduce reports, motion portant présentation de rapport, Conseil Tierney et Chernyshenko, s'il vous plaît.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. That the Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee Report 3, Community and Protective Services Committee Report 2, and the Finance and Economic Development Committee Report 3 be received and considered, and pursuant to subsection 73.4 of the Procedural Bylaw 2014-441, Council is being asked to consider the report from the City Treasurer entitled Bylaw to Authorize $150 million Debenture Issue, item 1 of the agenda, and corresponding bylaw listed in item 1 under motion to introduce bylaws, 3 readings, and pursuant to subsection 35.2 and section 35.5 of the Procedural Bylaw 2014-441, Council is being asked to consider the report entitled Zoning and Planning Subdivision for 679 Fernbank Road, contained in the Planning Committee Report 5. That's item 6 of the agenda.
Carried. Thank you. Reports, rapport, City Treasurer, bylaw to authorize $150 million debenture issue, règlement visant à autoriser l'émission de débentures pour un montant de $150 millions. Carried. Committee reports, Agriculture and Rural Affairs. Committee report number 3, rapport numéro 3 du Comité de l'Agriculture et des Affaires Rurales, Zoning Bylaw Amendment 1125 and 1129 Clap Lane, modification au règlement de zonage 1125 et 1129 Ruelle Clap. Carried. Zoning Bylaw 7315 Fernbank Road, modification au règlement de zonage 7315 Chemin Fernbank. Carried. Finance and Economic Development Committee Report number 3, 2015 Tax Ratios and Other Tax Policies, Coefficients Fiscaux et Autres Politiques d'Imposition de 2015. Question, we'll come back to that then. Item number 5, disposition of 2014 tax and rate supported operating surplus deficit, règlement de l'excédent du déficit de 2015 des opérations finances par les recettes fiscales. Carried. Planning Committee Report number 5, rapport numéro 5 du Comité de l'Urbanisme, Zoning and Plan of Subdivision 6279 Fernbank Road, 6279 Chemin Fernbank. Carried. Does anyone wish anything to be removed from the bulk consent agenda? On the bulk consent agenda as presented? Carried. So we'll go back to item number 4, tax ratios. Councillor Fleury, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
My question's about item number 7. It's about the vacancy rebate program. My understanding is that there's some provincial legislation regarding this, and then we're also we have to approve a local policy around vacancy. Could you explain to me what's the idea around the strategy? Because we've suffered in certain locations downtown of vacant buildings, and we often get questions from residents regarding our authority or our power or the tax that those properties might be charged. So I'm intrigued to know regarding that vacancy rebate program, what's our authority and what we're trying to achieve?
Certainly, Councillor. So we are required under the Municipal Act to provide a vacancy rebate program for commercial and industrial properties. So residential properties that are vacant and are left in a derelict state, there's no rebate to them. They get taxed based on the assessed value of that particular property. And there's, I know the issue that was raised at committee, it's what can we do about those particular properties? And unfortunately for the residential side, there is not much we can do other than enforcement of property standards to make certain that the building is maintained and kept in a state that doesn't allow vagrants or potential fire hazards and so on. With respect to industrial and commercial properties, we provide between, it's a 30 to 35% rebate on the taxes if the property is in fact vacant. And the reason why this happens is because those properties are assessed based on their income stream. If there's no income coming in, then in fact their assessment should be lowered. So this is a way of lowering the assessed value of it by giving them a rebate. It doesn't bring them to the residential rate, but it brings them closer to what a resident would pay on a vacant property. There is, we don't really have any discretion with it, as I said. We have approached the province in the past to ask if there is something that we can do about this to encourage vacant properties to become unvacant, to become occupied, to deal with the issues. At this point in time, we have not had any positive response back from the province. We would suggest that what might be workable is that you have a sliding scale. You initially get a vacancy rebate of 30 to 35% for the first 3 years. After that, it goes down to 25%, and it continues to decline until at such point in time as you're paying the full commercial taxes on it. But that would require provincial legislation to enact.
C'est tout?
Petit élément de clarification.
One clarification, please.
The mixed-use nature of some of our properties, especially downtown, how that's reflected to your to the explanation regarding commercial and industrial institutional lands.
Mixed-use properties, which would combine commercial and residential, for example, are taxed that way. The residential portion of it is taxed at the residential rate, and the commercial portion is taxed at the commercial rate. So if there is a vacancy on the commercial side, they get the rebate for the commercial, for the portion of the properties that relate to the commercial only.
Yeah, I mean, for us, that's where the issue is. It's on that commercial property. How can we try to activate those sites in downtown? Just a follow-up to that same report, the parking lot element, we have a blanket rate for parking lots across the city. Have we considered charging a separate rate inside the green belt and outside the green belt, or sectioning it off? Because for us in our area, we have zoning on traditional main streets that really encourages frontages and commercial ground floors and, you know, residential above. And I wonder if there's an incentive to increase the tax rate for downtown surface lots to encourage those sites to redevelop.
So first off, the parking lot category is also vacant land. It's not just parking lots. So it's parking lots and vacant and excess land is included in there. The biggest piece of it, though, is parking lots. Under the Municipal and Assessment Acts, you actually are not allowed to distinguish taxes by geographic area unless it's a special area levy. So you have to set a rate that's consistent across the entire city, unless you decide that you want to do a special area levy, and then you have to justify why you're charging one group more than another. We've looked at this in the past. There's been concern that parking lots are not paying enough. But what happens if you increase the taxes in the parking lot category? Because it is a subclass, all it means is the rest of the classes would pay less. It just moves it within the class. It doesn't actually generate more taxes for you. It just changes who pays for it. Parking lots would pay more. Office towers, retail would pay less. So that's the net effect of increasing the parking lot category.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Merci. Councillor Kakish, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just had a follow-up to my colleagues' questions, and in terms of my understanding, the federal government is a big reason for the increase in the vacant commercial downtown. Are we doing any forecasting in terms of future numbers? Is the worst behind us, or are we expecting more vacancies downtown for the next few years?
We look at the past history of the vacancy rebates, and we have an amount budgeted every year, and we look at what our experience is. The amount has been increasing significantly in the last couple of years. We don't think the worst is behind us yet. It will take a while for the commercial market to settle down in the downtown area, because you've had a big influx of space available in the downtown area recently. So we adjust that budget every year. We probably have not adjusted it enough. There will likely be another deficit in that particular line in 2015 again. But we'll look at it again, and we're continually trying to adjust it to bring it up. But this is one of those things where you don't want to act too quickly, because you'll bring it up, say you brought it up to the 2014 experience for 2015, and then all of a sudden the market turned around, you'd end up with a surplus in it. So you effectively would have overtaxed for that account. So we watch it and we try to monitor it and adjust it every year, but certainly we think there's still more to come, and that's one of the reasons why we are doing the pilot program for the vacancy inspection, because we believe that there may be a tendency to apply for these things too quickly. So we will have somebody out there going and inspecting these properties rather quickly to determine if, in fact, it is a true vacancy.
Okay. And this money's taken away from general revenues?
The charitable rebates and vacancy rebates account is in the non-departmental, so it's an offset, it's an expense. So it's built into the budget, so everybody pays for it. Basically, it becomes part of what we tax for. So everybody pays for it, and then we end up giving it back to certain taxpayers.
Okay. I guess as part of, my only other comment to staff is as part of the forecasting that we work closely with the federal government, so there's no surprises down the road in terms of what to expect or what to set aside for that pot of money. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kakish. Any other questions, comments on the report? Carried. Adopté. Merci. Disposition of items approved by committee under delegated authority suite à donner des articles ratifiés par les comités en vertu de pouvoirs délégués. Received. Motion to adopt reports. Motion portant adoption de rapport. Councillor Tierney, seconded by Councillor Chernyshenko, please.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That the report from the City Treasurer entitled Bylaw to Authorize a $150 million debenture issue, Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee Report Number 3, Community and Protective Services Committee Report 2, Financial and Economic Development Committee Report 3, and Planning Committee Report 5 be received and adopted as amended.
On the motion, carried. Adopté. Thank you. Motions of which notice have been previously given. Motion dont avis a été donné entièrement. We have one by Councillor McKenney, seconded by Councillor Fleury. Councillor McKenney, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for Glowfair. It's As you know, we have a lot of very interesting festivals across the city, and many of them here in the downtown, of course. And one of the more recent ones, this is year 2, is Bank Street BIA's Glow Fair. And in order for them to have their necessary road closure, is the City of Ottawa special events bylaw states that no road closures are permitted on weekdays. This motion is just to allow them to begin the fair on Bank Street beginning Friday at 1 p.m. and ending Sunday at 6 a.m. So essentially it's for a Friday afternoon. So do you want me to read it out, or are we all okay?
No, I think everyone sees it's up on the screen as well. So.
Okay.
Just a question, Councillor. So this will go through the SEAT process, so OC Transpo will be notified and routes.
Absolutely,
and so
yeah. So again, this is just to allow that Friday from 1 p.m. till Friday evening, essentially.
Okay. Right. Any questions, comments on the motion? Carried. A great event last year. Congratulations. The second motion that was given to us earlier was moved by Councillor Brockenden and seconded by Councillor Deans. Councillor Brockenden, if you'd like to introduce your motion, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And again, notice was provided last council meeting. It's quite lengthy. So it's regarding signage in and around the Ottawa International Airport. So for close to 2 decades, the Park and Fly, which is a commercial enterprise on Uplands Drive off of Hunt Club, which provides parking services to travelers using the airport, has had 19 signs sprinkled around the airport perimeter directing motorists to their parking lot. And for close to those 2 decades, no complaints were received by any member of the public, not in River Ward, not in Gloucester Southgate Ward, and neither councillors of those 2 wards ever objected to the signage. If we flash forward to more recent times with our new CEO of the airport who arrived, and he readily admits that the one complaint that has been generated was generated from or originated from the Ottawa International Airport. So that sort of spurred why the signs came down. The City of Ottawa removed all Park and Fly signs less than 1 year ago. The general manager of the Park and Fly is adamant that the former regional municipality of Ottawa-Carleton knew about the signs, endorsed the signs, made the signs, and installed the signs. Problem is that no one has any paperwork to substantiate this endorsement, and our city's own legal department has looked up and down for this type of paperwork. And given that it's been 2 decades, it's been hard to find on both sides. That said, the city was aware that these signs were erected in the community. The city knew that they were there, and at no time during those 17 years, or approximately 2 decades, did the city take those signs down. It was only when the Ottawa Airport Authority complained to the city that the city took action. So the motion that's before Council today, Mr. Deputy Mayor, talks about the necessity to review the signage in the area, to direct staff to develop a wayfinding signage program for parking and around the airport in cooperation with stakeholders, which would include the airport, and report back by Q4 2015 to the appropriate standing committee of council with recommendations. In the meantime, the airport has signs on the city right-of-way land, not just one as the motion indicates, but there are actually 3 signs. And I'm not suggesting for one minute that those signs come down, because they are providing value to motorists who are coming to the airport, providing them information about their parking options. So what is being proposed is an interim compromise. It's not suggested that all 19 or 18 of the Park and Fly signs that originally existed and were erected in the community be put back, but approximately 1/3 of those signs. So Councillor Deans and I had looked at all the original locations of the signage, and we are recommending that 1/3 of those signs go up in the interim. Park and Fly has confirmed that they are receiving complaints from people who are getting lost. And the fear is that we don't want people who are not familiar with the Hunt Club community to be traveling through our residential streets who can't find the Park and Fly, because the Park and Fly does serve, I would assume, thousands, if not tens of thousands of motorists on an annual basis. This is about signs. This is about providing a service to motorists from Ottawa, from Eastern Ontario, from Western Quebec, from further parts who use the airport and want to use the services in the airport vicinity. So I think this is a compromise solution that in the interim, while review is taking place over the next 6 months, that 1/3 of the signs go back up that existed for 2 decades anyway. And I had circulated to members of council this morning one of those signs, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that has what the Park and Fly General Manager believes is an RMC stamp on the sign. So again, city staff cannot confirm that, but there's a lot of documentation and a lot of people who were here, basically Park and Fly back in the day, that believes the city knew about this and endorsed it at that time. So we have to come to council today because we have a bylaw that exists that says this is not permitted, so an exemption is being requested. If there are any questions that come up in debate, I'd be happy to address them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Eagleye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a question for staff. So the signs indicating where the private parking or the private company Park and Fly lot is located, are they legal or aren't they legal?
Mr. Chair, the Park and Fly signs, we went through an extensive process to try to find documentation to identify how they were permitted to go up initially. We've been unsuccessful in doing that. In the absence of any documentation, the determination we've made is that they were not legal, and that's why they were removed.
So the determination made was that they were not legal?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
So what is the staff rationale for allowing them to stay in place, even for an interim period of time?
Mr. Chair, the signs have been removed. They were removed about a year ago, and I guess.
No, I understand that, but the motion is suggesting that they go back. So how do we get from illegal to it's okay to put them there?
With council providing a waiver to the bylaw that says they are illegal, that waiver would essentially make them legal on an interim basis.
No, I understand the process. I'm understanding what staff's rationale. Why are you recommending that we do this?
Mr. Chair, it's not a staff recommendation.
Okay, so you're not taking a position on that?
No, Mr.
This is a motion that has been brought to council by council.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. If this motion passed, and I put this out to the movers as well, would staff be prepared to look at the wider issue of signs publicizing private businesses throughout the city as opposed to just the airport zone?
Mr. Acting Mayor, the staff will follow the direction that the council provides it with.
So would the movers in the motion consider that to be a friendly amendment to take a wider look at the issue of private signs rather than just the airport zone?
I think I'll talk to that when I get there. I think we have to confer.
Well, I'd like an answer now because I'm on my minutes, so I don't want to lose my minutes if there's a question about it.
I don't object to a wider one, but it's kind of apples and oranges.
Why don't we refer it to CPS?
No.
Okay, well, I'll wait to hear that answer. I don't know, Mr. Chair, if I can go back and speak if I can have the remaining minutes, depending on what the answer is.
It's not the law. It's not usually permitted.
So I'll be suggesting that there be a friendly amendment to that effect, that we look at the wider issue of whether or not there should be signs promoting private businesses on public land, as opposed to just concentrated on the airport land. Thank you.
The answer is no.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor.
The answer is no.
Acting Mayor, may I add a supplemental response?
Please, Mr. Kirkpatrick.
So as Council's aware, staff have been directed to develop a plan for a bylaw review, and I can confirm that the signs bylaw will be considered. It's one of the top priority bylaws that staff will be recommending to Council for review, and that issue could be considered as part of that.
Mr. Kirkpatrick, could you remind us of the timeline on that review process?
Mr. Kanellakis has told me that the work plan will be coming back to CPS at the next committee meeting, so in a very timely manner.
And that would be considered as part of the work plan now. Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fleury, please.
He's a great guy.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's more a comment that I have. We have serious issues at the city with these signs. We've seen it in the market constantly. I'm in favor of this motion for the time being because it is for a transition period, but we have to look at the whole situation regarding those signs, because on one side we have temporary signs, we have permanent signs. Some businesses went ahead, just like my colleague showed us, by Home Depot. Some businesses put signs on our properties. So it's true that we are a big city, but our approach must be coordinated. I understand that we have to review the whole policy, so I would be in favor of the motion. But you have to think that there are major issues here, big issues, bigger than the airport and the park and fly. Each business is trying to get advantages, be it with patios or signs, and so that's why we have to find a way to be fair with everybody. So I think that this motion is in line with this, with such a review, and that's why I agree. I understand why some are not in favor of the idea of helping out a private business to give them an advantage over another business. But this is just temporary, and we're trying to find a solution that will promote a complete and exhaustive review.
Yeah. Merci, Councillor. Councillor Hubley, please. Councillor Hubley? Okay.
Sorry.
Did you want your speaking time, Councillor?
Oh,
okay.
I'll cancel it. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Councillor Deans, did you want to?
I'm on the list.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to just go over a few reasons why I would ask members of council to support this motion. Really, the motion does three things. One, it allows the airport to have as a right their sign on city property, and on a short, and it does a review of wayfinding signage. Now, I just wanted to speak to the issue that Councillor Egli raised. From a CPS perspective and a bylaw perspective, I'm perfectly happy to look at the broader issue of signage on city property. But this motion is really specific to the airport and the airport precinct, and I just didn't want to mix apples and oranges, so I didn't want to throw it into this motion. I think you can appreciate that. But obviously, having a review of signage around the airport, because there is confusion there for a lot of travelers that are not, they don't know the city particularly well. They're trying to find the EY Centre. They're trying to find parking lots, hotels, airport, all kinds of things, drop-off and delivery. There is a need to ensure that we have some sort of orderly directional signage in that area, and I think it behooves us to take a look at that particular area and see if we can make it work a little better than it has. I think the real meat of this issue is the question of the 19 park and fly signs that were in place for the last 17 years and that were recently removed by the City of Ottawa. And there were questions about who put those signs up, when they were put up, and whose authority they were put up. And unfortunately, we have not been able to verify that it was the former regional municipality of Ottawa-Carleton that put it up. But there certainly is compelling evidence to suggest that they were put up by the region. And in fact, this, on the back of the signs, these letters and number combination are on those signs, which appear to be regional signage, similar to other signs around the municipality today. So, I mean, it's pretty compelling, although it couldn't be proven. If it was proven that they were up, then as a right, grandfathered, the Park and Fly would have the right to keep all 19 of their signs. So what Councillor Brockington and I are suggesting is that we're going to do this review. It'll come back in Q4 and we'll have some clarity going forward. But in the interim, I think there's a fairness question, and for me as a member of council where there's a lot of confusion around the airport, my interest is in making sure that people who have a destination in the airport precinct can easily find their way. And Park and Fly tell us that they've been receiving 2 to 3 complaints every week from people who are having trouble navigating that area because the signs have come down. So we're asking you to consider allowing Park and Fly to put 7 of their signs up and then give us the time to do a review, and hopefully what we come back with will be a more orderly process going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Blais, please.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm generally okay with an interim solution. That's fine. As we work towards the bigger review, Mr. Kirkpatrick, whoever is best positioned to answer, are we going to be looking at the possibility of a pay-for service so that there would be some kind of recuperation? And that would, I think, even the playing field. So it's not the city deciding who gets to put signs up. It's those who are able and willing to pay for the promotion, basically.
Acting Mayor, if I could confirm, Councillor, are you referring to a fee to locate a private sign in a public right-of-way? I think that makes sense to include in the consideration.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hubley, please.
Gotta wait for a mic. There we go. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My apologies for missing the earlier button. And I'm going to apologize to Doug Thompson if he's still here, but I've got to agree with Councillor Deans this time that I think you've got something there with that sign. And I'm just curious why staff wouldn't accept that, because if, there's other examples of signs in the area. I think Albion Road was an example used where they have these stamps. So doesn't that, the purpose of those stamps was to say that the fees were paid and the sign had permission?
Mr. Chair, we're happy to accept any direction from Council. With respect to the stamp question in particular, we have looked into the stamp and have not been able to substantiate what the code on the signs means. So we aren't able to confirm that is a sign that was built by or put up by the former region. It's a question mark.
Did we look at the other signs, like the ones on Albion Road, for example, and others in the area that had similar stamps? Did we check those to see if they're legal? If all these signs got up here with a stamp that made it look legal, but it wasn't really legal, I think we have a bigger problem than 19 Park and Ride and 3 airport signs.
Mr. Chair, Acting Mayor, from a staff perspective, the stamp itself does not send a signal to us that it's a legal sign. We understand that it has been brought to our attention that there is another series of signs in the immediate area that share the same code. But, Mr. Chair, we're not sure whether that code is based on the manufacturer that put them up, whether it's a color code. The code really, at this point, doesn't mean much to staff.
Okay, so until we can get to the bottom of this, I believe I'm going to follow several of my colleagues and support the interim motion as well till we can get to it. But I would hope that staff look at whatever gets determined here, that they look at the whole area and all these other signs with stamps at the same time. Thank you.
Apologize. Councillor Leeper, please.
Thank you. The portion of this motion that suggests a review of the airport parking signage is obviously very welcome. We do have a lot of visitors who are going to be coming into the city over the course of the next couple of years. Parking is obviously critical. The difficulty that I'm having in supporting this motion is that I've been asked on multiple occasions just in the short time that I've been councillor for Kitchissippi Ward to take enforcement actions against signs in my community. Sometimes those signs have been been of a commercial nature. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're advertising causes and events in the neighborhood that people consider to be in the public interest. I'm not sure that residents necessarily understand the difference in signage enforcement between something that is specific to the airport versus overall. And I'm going to have a hard time coming back to my residents when they ask me to enforce sign rules in my community to say, I will do so and deal with the people whose signs those are when they're asking me, why did you enforce against this when you would not enforce against the airport? I understand that it's a public service that we are trying to facilitate with the new signs that should go up, but I just cannot find any consistency with respect to a message with my constituents in this. So I can't support this motion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor El Shantiri, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I wasn't going to speak about this item, Mr. Mayor, but I think we've gone a little bit too far to compare this type of business to a chip wagon or a hamburger place. This is a signage. It welcomes our folks to our city, and also for the people who's looking around. I don't know if some of you ever go to Montreal to pick a flight from there, and you see the signage everywhere about the parking flight, giving you the proper direction. And this is not just to show you one business. You can find 100 of them in one corner. This is one of the few probably unique business around the airport, and to help people to find their way to the park and fly. So I'm not sure, and also this motion will give our staff and the opportunity to look at it for a long-term solution. So I will be supporting this motion, Mr. Mayor, and I hope the rest of my colleagues that treat this as a unique business of its nature versus just another business. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Medic, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to say I'm going to support the motion and also echo what Eli just said a little bit. This is an Ottawa first thing. The airport is often the first and or the last impression someone has of our city, and if there's nothing more frustrating when you're traveling than to get lost and when you're looking to park your car or find your car as you're finishing or starting a trip. So I agree with Eli that this isn't a ward issue. This is a city issue, and I think it's worth having it that we make it as easy as possible for people to find their way around travel hubs like the airport, like the train station, like the bus station. So I support the motion.
Thanks, Councillor Medic. Councillor DeRuse, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to echo what my colleague just spoke about this motion, and I just want to remind our colleagues this is like to people they find their way out to parking, and we're not asking to put the 17 signs back up. We compromised. We're only putting 7 signs because it's very hard to come into a city to park, and if you can't find your way around it, it's going to create an issue in the residential area, and our airport's been used very heavily. I'm not going to talk much about it. I just want to make sure that we support it and we make a decision based on the whole city, not just on our ward. Thank you.
Anyone else before Councillor Brockington wraps up? Councillor Brockington, please, to wrap up.
Just very briefly, Your Worship, the city does need a wayfinding sign program for the airport. I think we all in agreement that that is the right step to take forward. This is an interim compromise. The staff will conduct this review over the next 6 months and will report back to the respective committee where this needs to go. And finally, Council will have the opportunity to review this again. If it goes through committee and comes to Council, then we can make a final decision at that point. We're not asking for all the signs to be reinstated. We're asking for 7, approximately 1/3 of the signs. Quite frankly, Mr. Mayor, if this motion fails, the airport said, well, we have forced Park and Fly to take down their signs. We're willing to take our 3 signs down as well. And I'm saying that's the absolute wrong thing to do for all the reasons I've just heard. We want people to see the welcoming sign right before you get to the airport. That's on city right-of-way property. And we want those larger signs. There's one on the Airport Parkway and one on Uplands Drive that advertise airport parking, because that is a value to the motorists who are driving down those streets. You want them to have that information before they get there, so they're not confused and driving through the residential communities trying to find whether it be Park and Fly parking, Airport Parkway, or other airport services. we all travel. We've all been to other airports where signage is there because it helps direct people, it helps give information to people. So I think this is, in the interim, a motion that we should adopt. And Mr. Worship, I'm looking to you because at least one member of council has said they're willing to support one component of the motion, but maybe not other components. Would it be in order to vote on item 3 separately from the rest and allow people to support the wayfinding signage program? And if they so choose not to, then that could be an option so that we don't reject the signage program if the others are not palatable. I think we should support all components, but that's a solution.
Yeah, we can separate that vote. That's fine. Thank you, Councillor Barrington. I'll just offer a brief comment. I'll support the motion. I think it's a reasonable motion that deals with something we should have been dealing with a long time ago, wayfinding. I think that's one of the weaknesses in our tourism community. We have not a great wayfinding program on the exterior borders of the city, coming up to the airport, or even internally within the city. So I think it makes sense for us to have that review. I just want to confirm that it will be the cost of the proponent to pay for the making of the signs, the installation, and so on to city standards. And I look at the review as an opportunity for us to see what we can do around the city, either in a cost recovery or actually to make some money on this. The province has the Todd sign program on the provincial highways that you just don't have a hodgepodge of signs that are put up. They're standardized. We, in fact, have that now in rural Ottawa. We have, Earl Stanley's farm signs, Saunderson's farm, and so on, and I think they're very good, and they help tourists and they help residents alike get to a particular location without driving endlessly trying to find the proper location. So I think it's a reasonable motion, and I'd urge members of council to support it. So I think what we'll do is we'll go with item number 1, carried. Item number 2, carried. Item number 3, was that not the one that you wanted separated, Councillor Leeper? Oh, I'm sorry, you've dissent on the other 1 and 2. Okay, so on item number 3, carried. On item 4, carried, dissent by Councillor Leeper, and that was it. Motion has carried. Next is a motion by Councillor Middick, seconded by Councillor Leeper, and Councillor Middick also has a handout on this as well, I believe. So, Councillor Middick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. As we know, the Ottawa Marathon began 40 years ago in 1975, and since then the Tamarack, the Tamarack Race Week, has grown to become one of the biggest marathons in Canada. Race weekend is expected to draw some 50,000 participants to our great city, and it is Ottawa's largest tourism event, generating more than $30 million in economic spin-off for the NCR. The event runs from May 22nd to the 24th and boasts 6 events to choose from, including a full marathon, a half marathon, a 10-kilometer run, a 5-kilometer run, which I will actually be walking, and a 2-kilometer run that you can do with your kids. And as well, there is the Kids Marathon for CHEO. Today's motion, when passed, would declare May 22nd to 24th, 2015 as race weekend in the City of Ottawa. It's my hope all the councillors will participate and sign up for this great cause in the city. As such, I am issuing a friendly and fun challenge to all of my council colleagues to use the sign-up forms being handed out around the council table and commit to participating in this year's race weekend in Ottawa. Therefore, be it resolved that the city declare May 22nd, 2015 to May 24th, 2015 to be race weekend in the City of Ottawa.
Great. Thank you, and thank you for that challenge, Councillor. To Councillor Conseiller Fleury, s'il vous plaît.
I'd like to congratulate Councillor Middick for having challenged us to participate. This is one of the very important events in our city. We say that Ottawa is increasingly active, especially in the summer.
Thanks for bringing us all together in this amazing weekend.
Merci. Councillor Leeper, please.
Just to reiterate what Councillor Biddick and Councillor Fleury have said, I urge everyone to take part. I'm particularly pleased to be seconding this motion. The Tamarack Race Weekend is a mass participation event which really brings community together. For the past several years, I've been working with the organizers of the event to have the most awesome cheering station in Ottawa in front of the Hintonburg Community Centre. You don't have to be a runner or a walker to enjoy the benefits of this race, whether it is supporting a spouse in their pursuit for a personal best or volunteering. Particularly, I hope everyone will consider volunteering for the medical stations and the water stations. This is a chance for everyone to participate, and I hope that City Council will support those efforts. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nussbaum, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Middick for issuing the challenge. One request, I understand that Councillor Fleury has signed up for the half marathon, as am I, and I'm just wondering if you think about introducing a handicap where every year over the age of 30, you could get an additional minute to play into the final results of the half marathon. So just something to think about. Thank you very much.
We'll take that under advisement. So on the motion as presented by Councillor Middick, seconded by Councillor Leeper. Carried. Thank you, and good luck to Race Weekend. This is, I think, the largest race weekend in North America now, which is something we should be very, very proud of. The next motion to be introduced is by Councillor Nussbaum, seconded by Councillor Kakis. Councillor Nussbaum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The objective of this motion is clear. It seeks council support to request that the Minister of Municipal Affairs amend the Municipal Elections Act to allow this council to be master of its own destiny on the issue of campaign finance related to the role of corporations and unions. It's important to note that were it to pass, this motion would not change any of our election finance rules. A subsequent process would be required to enact a bylaw to give effect to any changes. And even if a majority around this table would not support such a bylaw, I am hoping that a majority around this table believe that this is an issue that we ought to decide for ourselves and not the provincial legislature. So this motion is ultimately then about jurisdiction and responsible government. However, having had the opportunity over the past 3 weeks to speak to members of the public and some of my council colleagues about this issue, I did want to address some of the concerns that have been raised with me about the possible impact of such a ban. So I'll just raise three briefly. The first that I've heard is that a ban would not stop a resident with a financial interest in city business from contributing. And I have to say on that this is not the purpose. The purpose of banning corporate and union donations is not to stop individuals with a financial interest in city business from contributing to election campaigns. Those individuals who earn their living in part or whole from business with the city or regulated by the city should not be prevented from exercising their democratic right to financially support any candidate of their choosing. The fact that any contribution over $100 is made public ensures that an elected official can be called to account with regard to any decision-making affecting a donor's financial interests. But by limiting contributors to individuals, we would ensure that every voter has the same and equal opportunity to participate in the financing of elections. A second issue that's been raised with me is that a ban could cause corporations and unions to direct the same contributions through their employees and then be less transparent. The law is very clear. The law prohibits contributors from donating money that is not their own. Therefore, law-abiding corporations and unions would not redirect contributions through their employees. And in terms of transparency under the present rules, it is not uncommon to find numbered or holding companies as donors, making their identities difficult to determine. It seems onerous to me for any interested citizen to have to pay $36.25 for a search fee and fill out paperwork simply to find this information out. And the third concern that I've heard is that a ban would disenfranchise community-based small businesses and unions with a legitimate interest in our city. And on this, I would say many businesses and unions make a great contribution to the community through monetary, volunteer, and other ways. And so do community associations and religious congregations, environmental groups, housing groups, sports clubs. Yet the latter category is not permitted to donate to campaigns. Prohibiting corporate union donations would therefore create a level playing field for the many and diverse types of organizations that form a really important part of our city fabric. So in closing, if City Council were given the authority to determine this issue for ourselves, Council, whether in this term or a future one, could have a constructive discussion of the merits of such a ban, and if a majority so chose, pass a bylaw. And given that this is a matter of local interest, there is sense in deciding this issue for ourselves and our city, not having it decided for us at Queen's Park. Over the past few weeks, I've heard from many dozens of residents of our city who support the effort for equity and campaign financing. I think this is a good sign, demonstrating the keen interest within the citizenry in improving the accountability, transparency, and ultimately the fairness of our democracy. So in summary, Mr. Mayor, I would encourage colleagues to vote in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McKenney, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting this motion. As Councillor Nussbaum rightly pointed out, this is about us, being the deciding for ourselves how we would like to regulate our elections. So I think that this is the first in what could be more than one step, but certainly difficult to argue that we shouldn't be able to make that decision for ourselves as the City of Ottawa. We each make our own decisions on how we fundraise through campaigns. I personally accepted from individuals, and I heard many of the same arguments as Councillor Nussbaum did over the last week as well, from a variety of residents, small businesses, people on both sides of the issue, and and while this won't, not accepting corporate and union donations won't make it perfect, because I don't think democracy is perfect, but we can move closer. We can get closer, a fairer system. There are other steps such as ranked choice balloting, which I also am in favor of, but this will allow us to move closer to a fairer system and a more equitable system. I think that the most important aspect of a ban for me is that in the end, if any individual wants to donate to a campaign, there is a limit, and we're all subject to that limit unless we're a corporation or a union where we get to donate more than once. So it's not fair. I don't ask to be able to donate twice as much as anyone else, and I expect that to be a level playing field for everyone. So on those, I will certainly strongly support this first step, and we'll certainly support a second step when we get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McKenney. Conseiller Cloutier, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. I have a few comments. It's an important issue. What causes our elections to be fair and transparent are found in the rules and in the laws and in the expectations of behavior. These are in the limits to candidate spending, that upper limit of approximately $30,000. They're in donation limits by individuals and corporations. They're in the ethical behavior of candidates. They're in the statutory reporting and the publication of those reports. And they're in a vigilant press. And that certain donations be somehow inappropriate, deemed inappropriate or not acceptable, doesn't make the system more fair. It, in fact, by limiting certain donations because of their source, makes it less fair, less transparent. If a corporation has donated to a certain campaign, we want to see that on a report. We want to shine a bright light on that. We want to know what that corporation's name is. Souvenons-nous aussi qui est.
Let us remember who is included in such a motion. The great majority of corporations in the city and the country are small businesses. This is how a taxpayer decides to deal with certain corporations legally and others.
They are restaurants. This is the way that that business person has chosen to arrange their assets. They're also single practitioner accountants who've set up a limited liability partnership. It's for tax and legal reasons. And these, whether that taxpayer be an individual or corporation, should be able to participate in the democratic process. Let's remember that our businesses, our councillors, businesses, whether corporations or individuals, whether large or small, are ethical, are dedicated. They create jobs. They create the products and services that our citizens want. They build parks. They renovate splash pads. For those reasons and others, for transparency and fairness, which is the objective of everyone, I would ask my colleagues to vote no on this issue.
Merci, Conseiller. Councillor Leeper, please.
Thank you, Mayor. It will come as no surprise, I think, to anyone that I am supporting Councillor Nussbaum in his motion. I would echo the same points that he has made, which are the necessity of a level playing field. I think all of us around this table understand how hard it can be to fundraise for a campaign. It is distracting, and we need funding in order to run credible campaigns, advertising, an office, door knockers, office expenses. Fundraising is critical, and I think some candidates, when they are supported by corporate donors who are able to donate once at the corporate level and then twice, 3 times, 4 times through the principals and senior staff, can... Sorry? I think that, Stephen, we can certainly take a look at any number of corporations where we see the senior staff and the principals also making individual contributions to to some candidates. It stacks the deck. I believe that we should have a level playing field. With respect to the transparency argument, names and addresses are in the bright sunlight. I think it's easy for analysts and researchers to ascertain who the individual donors are to campaigns. It's much, much more difficult to do when we're dealing with numbered companies. The barriers to ascertaining who the donors to a campaign are can be quite high when you have to file lookup fees. So I hope that folks will support the common sense motion that Councillor Nussbaum has made, the motion to at least be masters of our own domain with respect to looking at this issue in future, and I congratulate him for bringing this forward today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Leeper. Councillor Taylor, please.
Conseiller Taylor. Merci, Monsieur le maire. Je sais que nous sommes quasiment en train d'avoir le débat maintenant, mais je sais que cette motion vise à demander à Toronto d'avoir le pouvoir de faire cela. Mais c'est une question qui vaut la peine d'être posée, mais dans un contexte plus général. Depuis le temps que je suis à l'AMO, nous avons eu déjà cette discussion au sujet de la loi de la loi qui a été ou du règlement de Toronto. Mais je sais qu'on se dit tout le temps qu'on ne devrait pas procéder par à-coup, mais regarder la situation dans son ensemble. Il faut voir quels sont les pouvoirs fiscaux, les lois électorales. Alors, s'il y a un argument à faire ici, je pense qu'il y aura lieu de prendre le temps de s'auto-analyser, de voir ce qui nous mettrait à parité avec Toronto, si c'est ce que l'on veut accomplir, être les maîtres chez nous.
Presentation to Queen's Park and say, we would like to have all of this list of powers that would fully embolden us as a community, rather than simply saying, can we have one power, then can we have another, as they come up and as we think of them. Also, I think that process would benefit from public input. This motion today has had no public consultation. I think by coming up through a committee process or through our democratic governance review process, there could be an opportunity for public comment. So those are my thoughts on not necessarily why this motion is good or bad, but perhaps why the topic needs to be more fully explored rather than limited to this one thing. So I'm going to vote against this motion because I think it could be much better, could be much broader. The second thing, though, that occurs to me, and I'll only touch on this anecdotally because it's tangential to the motion, is I don't think this is the biggest problem facing our democracy here in Ottawa. We look at voter turnout and citizen engagement at election time. I think if there's a problem for us to work on as a council, it's that. We've had a bit of a discussion already in this term through the media and in the public about how we're suffering from the fact that we don't have more female leaders around this table. That number has gone down. And it was pointed out the number's gone down because the number of female candidates has gone down. Well, why has that happened? And while every member of council is representative of our very diverse communities, we're not as a whole representative of the very diverse community in Ottawa. And it's very broad, culturally, through ethnicity, demography. Why aren't those folks stepping up to be community leaders? And why aren't they engaged at election time? So I think if there's a broader democratic conversation to have and work that can be done by council in regard to making our community more democratic, it's best served locally in that respect. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Chernyshenko, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. While it's certainly true that this may not be the biggest problem facing council, fact is, in my opinion, it is a problem. It's something that I've heard over the course of the two elections, between elections, when the public comments on city affairs and decisions that are made by council, that it is quite commonly raised. The point that's quite commonly raised is the excessive influence of some corporate entities and sometimes union entities in city affairs.
Excuse me, Councillor. Mr. Annable, excuse me, Mr. Annable, if you would take a seat in the gallery, please.
I thought I had a chance to address on this motion.
No, it didn't. Only a committee. That's right.
So there's no opportunity to...
Sorry, we're not going to get a debate, Mr. Annable. You can talk to your councillor about that or the mover of the motion after the meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I apologize, Councillor Chernyshenko.
Yeah.
Well, Councillor Chernyshenko has the floor.
What I hear regularly is the issue of perception, that there are two kinds of citizens in the city. There is the regular individual, and then there is a second category. And the second category appears to a lot of people to have an excessive amount of influence. And I think it's relatively straightforward, and I'll step back for a second here and say this motion, as it is crafted, was clearly not stated in a way where we are to debating the rightness or wrongness of corporate and union donations, but in fact I'd say it was inevitable that was going to happen, that we would end up having that debate here, and that seems to be what is happening, so I'll take that as it is. I actually see it as quite straightforward, this motion and this issue. Yes, it is true. There are all sorts of imperfections in our electoral system, in the current legislation, and I think we should address those, but the fact is that a councillor has brought this motion forward, and we are having this debate on the matter of corporate and union as a separate category of participants. And I would say, short of a friendly amendment that wants to propose that council debate a broader package, I feel compelled to support this motion today and to support the idea of moving towards a system that is really reestablishes a direct connection with our voters. You are one individual who lives in this city who qualifies to vote. You have one opportunity to donate, and that is you as an individual. There isn't a second category to do that. A second category available to some by way of being incorporated or a member of a union. but not these other categories. So it's for this reason that I feel it's important that we move towards a citizen individual donation only model, and I see this as a first step that I will be supporting.
All right, thank you, Councillor Chernyshenko. Councillor Brockington, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've read the motion. I've listened to the introduction to the motion, and I understand the intent is to give Ottawa some more autonomy and control over our affairs with respect to elections. But I still am having trouble understanding what the issue or problem is that we're trying to solve. Giving us more autonomy, all right, that's interesting. But is there truly a problem? Is there truly here an issue that we're trying to get at? We have the Municipal Elections Act, which is provincial legislation which governs how elections are to be held across this province. I believe that there is value in standardized rules for all municipalities in this province. There is that one exception for Toronto with respect to contributions. And I don't believe a ban is fair. I don't believe a ban is democratic. We keep hearing about the importance of democracy and the importance of a democratic system, and yet banning corporations or unions I don't think is the right way to go. Believe it or not, corporations and unions are engaged and they're involved and they want the city to thrive as well, and they are part of the democratic process, either commenting on things that come to council or committee, or they themselves wanting to put their ideas on the table. So there is value there as well, and they should be permitted to continue to contribute to campaigns as they see fit. I've always believed, and I've always stated, that this is up to every candidate to be guided by their own conscience, their own values. And if you don't want to accept corporate money or union money in your campaign, then choose not to. That is your decision. And if other candidates wish to entertain that option for their campaigns, then we have provincial legislation that sets out the rules and regulations for that to follow. The fact is, it is open and it is transparent, and there is a requirement to report these contributions on the financial statements. Going along with Councillor Taylor about looking at other options, I've always had a problem that there are corporations and unions and individuals from municipalities outside of Ottawa that are allowed to be engaged in the Ottawa process. Why should a corporation in Sudbury, why should a grandmother in Niagara Falls, why should a union in Toronto contribute money to candidates running in Ottawa? They're not Ottawa taxpayers. Ottawa taxpayers, Ottawa residents, Ottawa corporations, Ottawa unions should be the ones that are engaged in this process, and they are the ones that should have the right to contribute to candidates. Why should outside corporate or individuals from Ottawa dictate who gets elected in Ottawa? I have a problem with that. And then other people in my ward are uncomfortable with the fact that taxpayers contribute to the rebate program, that taxpayers are contributing to and paying for a partial refund for some contributions that come in by Ottawa residents. So if we're going to have the discussion, which I think is germane, and I fully support that this is on the table today, there are other issues at play that we need to look at and certainly ask ourselves. So I don't support the request before us. I do believe that we have provincial legislation that has considered this, that allows this to occur across Ontario, that we have an open and transparent process, and at the end of the day, this should be left with each and every candidate to be guided about whether or not they want to accept these contributions or not during their campaign.
Conseiller Fleury, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are some very good points that were raised. I think that at the council table we're asked to present this position to the province of Ontario. Several here have talked about a more global review. We talked about the signs, the rebate program that could have a different impact if the federal and provincial government had tax reduction program instead of this. So by asking the province, we could review these aspects. So there are many, many elements that that should be reviewed. I don't like to go to the province 3 or 4 times in a row because we're less efficient in this way. We haven't had this discussion. Yet I think that individuals have a role to play also. We're elected because people trust us. If a majority of people trust us, if there's a doubt on something, we can bring clarification. And for my part, I've decided to put all my donations online before the election. I thought it was important for a candidate, but it's everyone's choice, and it's still that way. And as for corporations and unions, I think there are some aspects that are not well understood. The CEOs of corporations, if we ask for the permission to the province and council decides to go ahead, a CEO of a corporation could still donate, and that name would be hidden behind a corporation. So it doesn't really settle the issue here, what we're really looking for. So I think that if there's a problem with the donations of some corporations, we have to have an open discussion on this and not trying to include all corporations. After experiencing the rebuilding of Rideau Street, many small business had problems with the city, be it parking, sidewalks, cleaning up. That's as important because these people are also residents, and we should not neglect them here either. So I'm happy with what we have now. If there's a review to be done, we should do it in a global way, make one request to the province in line with the objectives of the council.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just keep this short. You know, there are 2 parts to the law. There is the legislation, and there is the court decisions that help fill out what that legislation means and what various interpretations of it are actually legitimate. And many decades ago in Ontario, the decision was made that we should have one law across Ontario, with the exception of Toronto, because I guess that always is common sense. But we should have one law across Ontario. It applies across Ontario so that a dispute over the meaning of a term in Thunder Bay gets defined, and we all get the benefit of what that means through the court process. If we have 440 municipalities in this province, each creating its own election law, then we don't get the benefit of consistent court interpretations of what those laws mean, and we do get people from each municipality feeling they have to go to court to get interpretations and rulings on what each of those laws mean. So we have more litigation, and we don't get the benefit of uniform interpretation of what the law means across Ontario. So there were good reasons to have one law across Ontario, and I think those reasons still exist. And I personally don't think we should be asking the province to fragment that one law. If you have problems with any part of it, you might want to go talk to the province. But I don't see the benefits of having a fragmented law across the province.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kakish, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, I appreciate the wide diversity of opinions about this topic, and it's always a touchy one to discuss, but I think it's a good thing that we're having this discussion. I committed to doing this during the campaign, and I just want to touch on, as a seconder of the motion, a couple of the points that Councillor Nussbaum made as well. We're not taking a right or banning the democratic right of corporations or businesses, because they still can, as individuals, contribute to the election process as personal individuals despite this ban. But my biggest concern, or my biggest issue with this, is that under the previous term and under your leadership, Mr. Mayor, we brought in accountability reforms, we brought in transparency reforms, and I see this as a missing piece or a continuation of that puzzle because, some of those reforms that were brought forward are clear about accepting corporate and union or gifts and tickets from corporations that are doing business with the city. So for me, this is also an extension of that. We can't do that between elections. Why do we do it during an election? And so that's my biggest sort of piece of it, in addition to the fact that Councillor Nussbaum pointed out they get to donate twice. And I know that will make life difficult for us. I had to host 4 or 5 fundraisers as a newcomer in the 10 months that I campaigned, so it's not easy. But doing this also, I think, will take out money from politics and political campaigns, and having less money in politics, I think, is a good thing. And for that reason, I'd ask my colleagues to consider supporting this motion, to also give us the ability to do what Toronto has and give us the autonomy to make that decision-making process. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kakish. Anyone else before Councillor Nussbaum wraps up? Councillor Nussbaum to wrap up, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say thank you for all the thoughtful comments that were made around this table. I think it's a sign that we could benefit from having a further discussion if we were to have the jurisdiction. A reason in my mind to vote in favor of this. And just another brief comment that in terms of the ideas about further electoral reform, I'm very much in favor and recognize that there are a series of other issues which we might also as a council want to contemplate over the coming months. So just to say that I certainly agree with the view that this is one of a series of issues which I hope as a council we can address over the coming months and years. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, colleagues. I'd like to offer a few comments of my own on this particular issue. First, it's clear to me that companies big and small do, in fact, play a very positive role in the well-being of our community and its economic development. Il est clair pour moi que les entreprises
Obviously, businesses, big and small, contribute positively to our community and to the economy of the city.
The idea that companies are donating to the municipal democratic process with negative or bad intentions. It's certainly not my experience as a municipal politician. In fact, I often see that companies that get involved by donating in the democratic process are often the first to contribute to local charities, non-profits, hospitals, cultural centers, rec complexes, and hospices. Ces entreprises qui donnent à des campagnes.
These businesses who give to electoral campaigns also give to community organization and charitable organization in every areas of the city.
Elections helping to level the playing field, they help challengers mount strong election campaigns. Let's face the fact of modern political life. Very few of us who run for office are independently wealthy. Do we want only those people who are able to completely finance their elections with donations from their personal fortunes to run for office? I think it's quite fair to allow a small business person to donate a few $100s to the municipal election process. It's not fair for a single individual to be able to donate hundreds of thousands of dollars to their own election effort, as we've seen in some mayoral races. I recall when I first ran for city council, I was up against an incumbent who had all of the advantages: a monthly column in the community newspaper, office advertising budget, paid professional staff, the list goes on and on. I was honored to receive donations from my local hardware store, clothing store, barber, an architect, a few restaurants, and a construction company. This motion says no to business donations, but yes to the same people who own the business. It makes no sense. Look through some of the returns of candidates, and you see some very familiar names of people who own development and corporate offices. Also, you'll see some unfamiliar names that own or operate companies. Yet with this motion's proposal, these individuals, unless widely known, are all but anonymous to the average citizen. They donate, and are they seeking undue influence over candidates? Do we need to ban anyone who works for or owns a local business, a spouse, a cousin? Where do we stop? When you cast negative aspirations on one group of contributors, you cast them on all contributors. Some are trying to portray this simply as seeking a power from the provincial government. In my opinion, asking for a power we don't intend to use is futile. Let's say someone wanted to ask for the power to bring photo radar to the city without actually intending to use the power. Shouldn't we start by having that important debate about photo radar in the first place? And let's be clear, I don't want that power for Ottawa, so I don't want to have a debate about asking for the power, maybe just to use it later. We're working with the province on a number of big projects that are really important to the future of our city. Phase 2 of light rail transit, the Ottawa River Action Plan. Let's not allow ourselves to be distracted by seeking a power while telegraphing to Queen's Park that it's a theoretical exercise and we're not really sure we're even going to use it in the first place. Let's ask for those powers around which there is a broad consensus around the table, powers that are meaningful to a city's future and that we actually intend to exercise in the immediate future. As mentioned earlier, I do not agree with the idea that sending corporate gifts into the personal contribution ledger will add transparency to the local election process. In fact, quite the opposite. On the contrary, it will lead to a lot less transparency than the current systems, as the widely respected local governance expert, Professor Carolyn Andrew, recently stated in a newspaper article. Comme l'experte en gouvernance, Professor...
As the governance expert Caroline Andrews said it in a newspaper article, this will lead to less transparency than the current system.
We know who is donating and where they work. I'd encourage members of council not to support this motion. J'encourage les membres du conseil à voter.
So I urge members of council to vote against this motion.
Councillor Nussbaum's motion, Madam Deputy Clerk. Thank you.
Councillor Moffat?
No.
Councillor Eglai?
No.
Councillor Tierney?
No.
Councillor Harder?
No.
Councillor Chernyshenko?
Yes.
Councillor Kakish?
Yes.
Monsieur Blais?
No.
Councillor Taylor?
No.
Councillor Deans?
No.
Conseiller Cloutier?
No.
Councillor El-Shantiri?
No.
Councillor Hughley?
No.
Councillor Leeper?
Yes.
Councillor Brockington?
No.
Conseiller Manette?
No.
Councillor Middick?
No.
Councillor Wilkinson? No. Conseiller Fleury?
No.
Councillor McKenney?
Yes.
Councillor DeRuse?
No.
Councillor Nussbaum?
Yes.
Councillor Shirelli?
No.
Councillor Caudry?
No.
Mayor Watson?
No.
5 yeas, 19 nays.
The motion's defeated. Motions requiring suspension of the rules of procedure. Motion exigeant la suspension des règles de procédure. None. Notices of motion for consideration of subsequent meeting. Avis de motion pour examiner en réunion subséquente. Conseiller Blais, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Whereas approximately 45,000 residential customers within the City of Ottawa are served by Hydro One, and Hydro One electricity rates are significantly higher than Hydro Ottawa rates, and whereas City Council on behalf of Ottawa residents is the sole shareholder of Hydro Ottawa, whereas City Council has had a one city, one hydro policy since amalgamation, and whereas resolutions requesting the province to negotiate the sale of these 45,000 customers have been brought forward and supported by Ottawa City Councils in 2002, 2003, and 2004, most recently reaffirmed on June 26, 2013, as a direction for the Mayor to write a letter to the province to reinforce why it is so important to the residents of Ottawa to be under one umbrella. And whereas for the first time since Ottawa's amalgamation, the province has indicated a willingness to sell a portion of Hydro One, and the Government of Ontario has struck an asset panel to recommend a process for divestiture of Hydro One assets, and whereas the sale of these customers to publicly owned Hydro Ottawa would provide the provincial government with its desired revenue, and any sale of the aforementioned 45,000 customers to private interests would forever impede hydro fairness in the City of Ottawa, and whereas any purchase of Hydro Ottawa would not adversely affect existing customers' rates, and whereas the City of Ottawa and Province of Ontario have a one-time opportunity to negotiate a win-win scenario for the province, Hydro Ottawa, and most importantly, the residents of Ottawa currently being served by Hydro One. Therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Watson, on behalf of City Council, formally requests that the Province of Ontario ensure that there is an opportunity for Hydro Ottawa to participate in a transparent procurement process to purchase Ottawa's 45,000 Hydro One customers at fair market value, and that the letter be sent directly to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Energy, and all local members of Provincial Parliament.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. That's seconded by Councillor Monette, and that will be at our next meeting. Are there any other notices of motion for consideration at a subsequent meeting? Motion to introduce bylaws. Motion portant présentation de règlement. Conseiller Tierney et Chernyshenko, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the bylaws listed on the agenda under the motions to introduce bylaws, 3 readings to be read and passed.
Carried. Confirmation bylaw, règlement de ratification, Conseiller Tierney et Chernyshenko.
That the following bylaw be read and passed to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting of the 15th of April, 2015.
Carried. Adopté. Inquiries. We have a number of inquiries from council. First is Councillor McKenney on Canada Post.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I have 2. One is Part A-B on Canada Post, and then a second. The first one on Canada Post, could staff please provide an estimate of the green space and or city right-of-way in front of residential yards that Canada Post would need to expropriate in order to locate community mailboxes in our high-density neighborhoods, such as Centertown? And I'd like to have staff look at, in particular, between Bronson and the Canal, based on the number of mailboxes per block. And Part B to this one is, could staff please provide an estimate of both the capital and operating costs in expanding our recycling program to each community mailbox? And I might add, they might look to Vaughan, who just introduced a recycling program, and we could probably extrapolate from that quite easily. My second one is public washrooms. Could staff please identify the best practices for a standalone public washroom located on city right-of-way, particularly in a park such as Dundonald Park, as well as the necessary utility hookups and other structural requirements for a possible pilot project? And if they could do that before Canada Post uses up all of Dundonald Park for mailboxes, that'd be really great, too. Thank you.
Thank you. The next is from Councillor Harder, please. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just an inquiry to ask the staff to do some work to help me with a project that's underway in Barrhaven.
Okay, the rerouting.
Greenbank Road.
Greenbank Road, okay. So that's to... who is that to?
That's to the city solicitor.
City solicitor? Okay, because it's not on here. All right, thank you, Councillor. The next is Councillor Brockington, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would the Treasurer, through you, please consider and provide a brief written outline that discusses the city's current debt level, the trend in the past 10 years of our debt, the proportion of debt to total revenues, and the proportion of the debt repayment as a percentage of the total budget. I did read a blurb in the debenture report, but I'm just seeking more information on the city's debt.
Okay, thank you. Conseil Fleury, is an inquiry.
Monsieur Maire.
Thank you.
Tried a series of tactics to deal with the geese population and byproducts of our city parks and leisure spaces, including dogs, aerial perspectives, and nest management. Could staff please review the geese management strategy in relation to best practices from other municipalities and provide a coordinated citywide approach to us?
Okay, that's all the inquiries that I have, except Councillor Caudry. It's not really an inquiry, it's more of a good news item about a young man in his ward who I had the pleasure of meeting. Tyson, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair or Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. First of all, I just want to, I'm looking for support from my colleagues along with the public of this city for a program that's coming up, and I'll read you the details as well as I'll send out an email to the client, to the colleagues, as well as to the community. Every day, ordinary Canadians are making extraordinary impacts in our world, from spearheading fundraising campaigns to founding their own social justice organizations. They're raising awareness of issues they're passionate about, being a voice for the voiceless, and spreading incredible change within their communities and even across the globe. Canadian Living Magazine has formed an award to recognize true heroes by creating the first ever Canadian Living Me to We Awards, honoring extraordinary Canadians building a better world. I'm honored and privileged to speak to you today about a young Stittsville resident, Tyson Lefebvre, who has been selected as one of the 3 finalists in the Canadian Living Me to We Awards in the community category. Tyson was born with a rare genetic disorder called Pfeiffer syndrome. Tyson, now 14, has been nominated for this award fundraising charity called Tyson's Mission to a Million, where his goal is to raise $1 million for a Make-A-Wish Foundation to help grant 100 wishes to children with life-threatening medical illnesses. The winner of the award will receive $1,000 for the charity of their choice, plus an article in the Canadian Living magazine. Tyson's already committed to donating that $1,000 towards his mission to a million. I'm asking you today to please support this amazing youth starting April 17th by visiting his website, where he will post a link to the Canadian Living Me to We so you can vote for Tyson. Tyson's website is missiontoamillion.ca. You can also Google Me to We Awards and visit and go to the Canadian Living magazine site. Voting opens on April 17th and concludes on May the 8th. Winners will be announced at We Day Toronto and in the October issue of Canadian Living magazine. I appreciate the ladies and gentlemen taking time to listen to this request, and I do anticipate hopefully support from each and every one of my colleagues along with the members in the community. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Councillor, and good luck to Tyson. Just 2 items of interest. The media and the public and members of council are invited to participate in a technical briefing on the transit service adjustments during the Confederation Line construction and the 2014 OC Transpo customer survey. That's taking place following council in the Colonel By room today. So that is obviously a very important briefing. We're starting the process of climatizing the public to the significant changes that are going to be taking place as a result of the shutdown of the transitway, and that technical briefing is on right after this. And the second item is I'd encourage members to go and visit Volunteer Ottawa's annual volunteer fair. I think they'd really appreciate members of council. It's literally next door at Jean Piggott Hall. And as you know, this is National Volunteer Week. I was at a very nice event in Councillor Dean's ward yesterday honoring Greenboro South Keys volunteers. And where would this city be without volunteers? We see them each and every day in our working lives and our personal lives, and I know it would be a big boost to some of these volunteer organizations if we go out in good numbers with our Sens jerseys and thank them for the great work that they're doing. Adjournment, Councillor Tierney, please.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the proceedings of City Council meeting of the 15th of April 2015 be adjourned.
Carried. Adopté. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. Merci.